Welcome to Ask the Edmonds Cop. I'm Teresa Whipple with Shane Hawley. And so now that we're thinking about summer and teenagers driving, which is an interesting topic that you actually brought up, I think, because you have teenagers.
Oh, yes.
I had teenagers
Thank you for
at one
reminding
point.
me. Yes, I'm very well aware of that every day when I look
Yeah.
at my checkbook usually.
Yes.
So this topic came up. I was on my way home and I heard a little snippet on the radio, and AAA had some data and some interesting things about the dangerous summer months for teenage drivers. And then, of course, this is just how it works. You know, I'm on I-5 and 2 carloads of teens go bombing by me, pull over, you know, into my lane. They're tailgating each other. Everything's fun, ha ha ha. And I'm like, all right, we got to do this as a segment. So
Good idea.
I got the eyeball test, just confirmed what we were talking about. So in doing some research on this through AAA and NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Favorite
We've
acronym.
talked about them
Yes, we
before.
have.
So car crashes are already the #1 cause of death for United States teenagers.
Okay.
So right off the bat, this is what kills teenagers more than anything. They have the highest car crash rate among any group of people in the U.S. Okay, and I'm like, wow. You know, they talk about the 100 days of summer being the most dangerous time because, well, I mean, they're out of school. You know, so they're not occupied during the day. They have more free time on their hands, and they want to go do stuff. So during the summer months, 260 teens are killed in car crashes each month.
Gee, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is. They have the highest rate of crashes that involve the death of other people. So we're talking passengers in their car, other drivers and other passengers, and pedestrians.
Okay.
So it's not just that they're dangerous to themselves, they're dangerous to everybody else that's out on the road or sharing the road with them.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, and I thought this was staggering, the risk increases exponentially with the addition of each passenger they have in their car. So they're 44% more likely to be killed in a car crash with one passenger that's under 21. That rate doubles if they have 2 passengers in the car, and it quadruples if they have 3 or more passengers in the car.
Okay.
So the more is not the merrier.
Right. And that is why the state passed the graduated driving.
Correct.
Right.
The intermediate driving
Yeah, that's what's
license.
called, intermediate.
Yeah. So, and we've kind of covered that. I think we did a segment
I
on
think
that
we did,
before.
yeah.
So it's no passengers under 20 except for family members, you know, for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's one of the main reasons
Yes.
behind that.
Right.
So all of this basically tells us that it, you know, it's not just their lives at risk, but everybody else. I mean, it's just dangerous all the way across the board. So, you know, you spend all this time, I got to thinking about this, you spend all this time when they're little, keeping them safe. You talk about playground safety and stranger danger and
Yeah.
all this sort of stuff.
Looking both ways when you cross the street.
All of it, right? Your goal is to keep them safe, and they've gone through driver's ed, and now they got their license. And how often do we just go, oh, here's the keys?
Yeah.
You know, are you thinking about the dangers behind it, and what are they doing when you're not watching? So they had a whole list of good safety rules for them and some things you can put into place to kind of keep them safe.
Okay.
The first one I thought, which made sense, was avoid letting them drive small cars, large SUVs, and high-performance machines. Okay, we've covered this before. The laws of physics still apply no matter who you are, and they apply to your teenage driver as well.
Yeah.
You know, if they're in a crash and they're in a small car, then you know that's less metal, less around them protection.
Yeah.
You know, and then large SUVs. You know, if they're going to hit somebody,
Do a lot more damage.
they do a lot more damage.
Yeah.
And high performance cars, if you give them a sports car, you know, they're likely to just drive it like a sports car.
Yeah.
And they don't have the driving experience. They can't handle a high performance vehicle, you know, that can take a corner at 45. They're not able to deal with that.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's just setting them up. And speed is, you know, always #1 contributor for most of these crashes, especially fatal car crashes.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Good.
the other thing I thought was really good was it's really up to you as the parent to set the rules and enforce them. And, you know, so limit passengers, set time limits for how long they can be out, and have a curfew. You know, you have to be back by this point in time. Limit where they can go and what routes they can take. Require seatbelt usage. No phones while driving, 0 tolerance for alcohol at all, and really watch the speeding. You know, you need to drive like, you know, your grandma driving down the road, right? So, and model good driving behavior for them so that, you know.
From the time they're little,
from the
probably, because
yeah,
they're absorbing that
absolutely.
like sponges.
Oh, yeah, you bet. I mean, because then you just sound like a hypocrite if you tell them, you know, hey, you need to watch your speed, and they look over and you're 10 over all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I would say also ride with them. Go out with them as a passenger. Just because they finished driver's ed doesn't mean they're an expert driver. I mean, it takes a while to get comfortable with it and really know it. And so ride with them and continue to teach them and have them learn. And that may mean you need to go with them places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I tell my kids, hey, you know what, driving is a privilege, not a right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to set the tone, and if you break my rules, I find out about it, well, now we're going to have some enforcement, and that privilege may just get revoked.
Yeah, good. Well, that's good advice. It's parenting on a lot of issues, but when it comes to driving, the consequences are pretty severe if they aren't
Yeah.
followed. So.
Yeah, and the AAA website, there's a lot of good stuff on there.
Okay.
There's some contracts that you can have for them. There's also a really unique grid, which I saw was kind of interesting, and it sets up kind of checkpoints for your teenage driver. You know, maybe the first few months, obviously no passengers, but you need to stay local, no night driving, weather conditions, a lot of things to think about. And then as they reach those checkpoints and do it safely without any incidents, then you kind of add a little more and then a little more. And it's set up for about a year to a year and a half.
Okay, great. All right, we'll put that link so people can see it.
Yeah.
And that's great information, and I'm sure it'll be helpful to a lot of people. So
All right.
we'll be back again soon with another episode of Ask the Edmonds Cop.